Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm here. The heat is just. She's tired. My heater is. She's really tired. It's pretty cold. It's been snowing the past couple of days. And so we've had our snow days. I've been over at my parents', and it's so gorgeous over there. Like, the snow. The snow is growing the snow. But I've been like, the day that it snowed, it was like early in the morning, so I woke up and there was just snow on the ground. I love the feeling where you just wake up and it's like just a winter wonderland. And I went outside and I was out there for probably like 2 hours. And then today I was just outside walking around in the snow for like another 2 hours. It was probably less than that. But I was just loving it because it was like, I don't know, it was like a beautiful day and it was snowing. I made a little tiny snowman and it really just, my fingers almost fell off because my gloves were not meant for snow play, for snow, playing in the snow, because it just immediately, my hands were soaked. And that's not good. I've heard that from, well, I knew it already kind of, but I heard it from people that climb Mount Everest. They're like, do not let your feet/hands get wet because it's not pretty. It's not pretty. Because I've just been obsessed with watching people climb Mount Everest and just any kind of Mount Everest type content. So, except the other night, I was watching like this guy, and he was like one of the youngest people to climb Mount Everest. And it was like a vlog, and I was like laying in bed watching it, and I started getting motion sickness. So, I had to turn that off. I can't really watch vlogs much or just like outdoor stuff or like GoPro stuff where it's just shaking around. It's just like too much for me. So that's really fun. But anyways, yeah, so it's been snowing and there's still snow outside and it's so fun. I think I've said this before, but we get the perfect amount to where it's like fun, but I know a lot of people are like, okay, we get it. We get snow like 6 months out of the year. We get it. But it's fun. It's just like a few days out of the year. We don't even get it every year. So it's fun if we even get it. It's like a little surprise. It's like a little fun. So, and I went driving around tonight. It was like sunset and I was like, oh, I'm going to go driving around. It's going to be sunset. It's going to be beautiful in the snow. No, I couldn't really see anything, and like there was still snow on top of my car, and I was trying to drive with that, and it was like slushing into my windshield, and I was like, this is not what I pictured. It's like really dark and kind of slippery and scary. So anyway, so that's what I've been up to the past couple days. I was throwing some snowballs at some trees. That's how into the snow I was this year. Like, I was just outside by myself, like, playing in the snow. Just, like, throwing snowballs. And I think I should go pro. And I was like, I was throwing them, like, as hard as I could. Because I haven't really, like, done that before. Just, like, throw a ball as hard as you can. And I was like, how do baseball players do it? Just like they pitch, like a good game is like 90, 100 pitches. Doing that over and over again, like no wonder they're like, oh, my elbow's out of play, like my shoulder is gone, like I need to have 12 surgeries. Like now I understand their pain fully now from throwing 4 snowballs. So I was thinking about like different types of content and like things that I like watching, and I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know, I was just thinking about it. And I have to be in two different moods. There's like silly content, and then there's like growth, like I'm calling you out type content. And I have to be in the right mood for something that's like, okay, if I'm listening to this podcast, it's like gonna better me or whatever. If it's like a Mel Robbins, or if it's like there's this one TikToker that I'm like, I need to be in a certain mindset to watch your TikToks because he's gonna call me out. He's gonna call me out. It's like that really buff guy with the glasses, and when he pops up, I'm like, oh, can I listen to this right now? But yeah, I was just, if I'm like on the treadmill, or if I'm like in the mood to better myself, and I'm like, okay, I can listen to this stuff, because I think sometimes you can, or for me, like I can listen to just so many different pieces of advice that I got kind of burnt out on it. And so I'm having to like relearn how to listen to it and take in things, but not take it in just like so much to where I'm like, well, this person said this, but then this person said that. You kind of have to like take what works for you and then just kind of take the rest of it with a grain of salt, maybe get a piece of it. But a lot of these people like say things like it is fact, like this is what you have to do. And a lot of the times it's true. Like I think it depends on who it is. Like some things I'll take their advice, and then some things I'm like, maybe I could tweak that a little bit, or I'm not taking that at all. But you kind of have to like try things out and figure out what works for you. Like there are some people that thrive off of like structure, like everything has to be structured, like every day is the same, and they thrive off of that. But then there are people that like it's different every day, and they thrive off of that. And I think I'm kind of more like that, to where you get stuff done, but it's not like at this time. Like I used to be like, okay, at this time I'm doing this, at this time, at this time, at this time. And then if I would miss it, then it would be like, oh, I'm never trying this again. Like I'm not doing this again. Like I'm not doing it then. If I didn't do it at 10:42 a.m., then I'm not doing it. But just like telling myself like what I need to do, and then doing it when I get to it, but within constraints. Like there do have to be deadlines, but if that makes any sense. So there's that content that like sometimes I do have to make myself listen to it sometimes and be like, girl, like you need to listen to something that's more upbeat or whatever, or just that's like helpful advice. But then sometimes I just want to listen to something silly, just something silly and goofy, whether that's a podcast or a YouTube video. Like there are certain YouTube channels that I'm like, oh, if I just want a distraction, like if I just want a silly, goofy time, I'm going to watch this. And that's usually what I pick. And I feel like like making content yourself, it's a different kind of, I think I view it in a different way than if you're solely watching things for entertainment, especially if it's kind of similar to you. So that's why I don't watch many people that do anything like super similar to me, because it's not really a distraction. I'm thinking about I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this, or like, oh, they did this, maybe I should do it. Or I'm afraid that I'm gonna subconsciously like start talking like them or doing what they do, because that has happened in the past. I feel like, even if it was just visible to me. But I like watching people's content that is like nothing like mine. Like, there's this YouTuber that like does movie commentary, and his personality is so different from mine. And like, people that just talk about stuff that I would never in a million years think to talk about. So it's just picking the right time for it. I don't know. I was just like, wow. It's like, you got to pick your time wisely, I guess, to know like what you're gonna, or like what you want to watch at that time. I don't know. So yeah, there's not been much going on. So these topics are kind of like all over the place. They're probably gonna all be all over the place. But like, I've been getting, like, when you hear this stuff, you're gonna be like, this is dull, dull, dull. I've been getting these calls from the pharmacy, from like a local pharmacy, and they've been leaving voicemails almost every weekday on my phone, and they're like, your prescription's ready, and it's like for John Smith, and I'm like, this is not he. But I'm too lazy, or like, I don't really want to call and be like, y'all have the wrong number. But they keep calling me and they're like, hey, you need to pick up your prescription. So I just haven't gotten around to that one. I always get like calls from people being like, this is Jessie, like, why aren't you calling me back? And I'm like, is my number that common? I don't know. Or like one number off. I also cleaned my fish tank. If you didn't know, I have a fish here, and he is my companion. Actually, I don't know if it's male or female, but the entire time I've had him, it's giving male. I think it's a male. I did do a little bit of research, and there is like a slight difference in their head shape, and he looks masculine. Like, if you just look at him, he looks masculine. But I've had him for like over 2 years. So he's thriving over there. He's thriving. He's an angelfish, and I think he's like always growing, like constantly. I feel like he's just gotten bigger and bigger. But we got him, I don't know if I've told y'all this, but we got him from like one of my mom's friends, and she like has the most beautiful fish tanks and stuff, and she gave me this. And actually, I love fish. Like, I honestly can't see my future life without having at least one fish. I'm just a fish girl. Like, who needs cats and dogs and things when you have a fish? And they're so low maintenance. Like, they're just chilling over there. Like, they're just chilling. And he, like, watches me. Like, when I'm on my little walking pad, it's, like, kind of by the fish tank. He'll just, like, watch me. And it's kind of like having a little companion. Like, I really felt when I got him that I was like, wow, I have a little, like, another living thing is in here, you know? So, he's just chilling over there. But cleaning that fish tank is a job. It really is. And he's just chilling over there. Maybe he's hungry. I'll feed him soon. I'll feed him after this. But yeah, that's like a whole thing. And see, I don't even know what I was saying in this. Trying to hang stuff gone wrong. Oh, I don't really have up like stuff on my walls. And I was like, I need to like put more on my walls and like be like like not maximalist, but just have legitimately anything on my walls. Like I need something here. But I do kind of like the clean, whatever. But, when you put something up, you don't have to leave it up there. So just like trying stuff out. But I think I have I think it's because of my past experiences. I tried to hang something up over here and I used this apartment renter friendly whatever. If it says renter friendly, don't believe them. Do not believe their lies. It was like this renter friendly. It was like this tape. And I should have known when it was like sticking to my skin and I could not peel it off. I should have been like, and if my landlord is watching this, I'm so sorry. I need to ask y'all for some paint, but it just like messed up that part of my wall. Just a little bit. Not too bad, but it's like, oh. And so now I'm kind of scared to put anything else up. But I've like accumulated some things that I really like, and I know exactly where I want to put each of them, but I'm just not experienced in that, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't even, like, I got this, it was like $5. It's like this beautiful like Van Gogh painting, and it has like a beautiful frame around it, but it's like super heavy, and I was gonna put it over there in my kitchen and be like, ooh, like we're in Van Gogh land, but it's super heavy, and I'm like, I don't know about all this. I don't think we can use nails, so that's that on that. Oh goodness. Now, we're not a pop culture podcast, but this is like something that is just worldwide news. Like everyone has been waiting for this moment. Like everyone knows about this. Zendaya and Tom Holland are engaged. How sweet. Like we all knew it was going to happen. Like I wasn't shocked when I saw it or even the way that it was revealed, but I was just like, see, I've seen too many engagements lately. Like, someone has gotten engaged every single day that I have seen over the past, 6 months. And I'm like, Zendaya, she's following in literally every single other human being's footsteps. So, it's nothing new. It's nothing new to see. But she shows up at the Golden Globes and she's like, she's doing a pose and she's like, hand on stomach. Or over to the side a little bit. Big rock. Left hand, ring finger. And she's like, yeah. Tommy. Does she call him Tommy? Tommy engaged. But we don't know how he proposed to her. How do I think he proposed? I feel like it was not a big thing. I feel like they're pretty private, I think. So it was probably they were sitting in the living room and he was like, oh wait, let me go get something, and he just comes back and he just gets on one knee and she's sitting on the couch like, oh hey. So he's another one that he's a short king. He's not even that short, I don't think, but she's pretty tall, and he's quite a bit shorter than her, or maybe they're the same height, but when she's wearing heels, he doesn't have a chance. But I love them. I love them. Yeah, he's very confident. I always say that a man who's dating a woman that is taller than him, you're already 10 times more attractive because you are that much more confident in yourself. You have to be pretty confident for that, I think. And just, there's this one video where they're going through the paparazzi and they're all going all around her and they're keeping her from him, and he pulls her out and he's pushing people out of the way. And the comments on that video were He's 6'3" to me. Like, to me, he's 6 feet. He's 6'3". So it is 6'3". I feel like he is 6'3". Tom Holland. Illy. Is there going to be another Spider-Man movie with him in it? I'm not sure. But they both said, like, I don't even know if this is true. Like, I'll see a headline and I'll be like, oh, true. And I don't even know if it's from, like, a reliable source. But I heard that Zendaya said that when she has a baby, she's retiring. And then he said, I think he said the same thing, like, when I have kids, I'm retiring or something. They said something very similar, and I was like, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. But just imagine being like, how old are they? Like, I think they were like my age, being like, yeah, when I have a kid, I'm going to retire. But I do understand that, like, I'm not saying that, like, working on movies and, like, being an actor is, like, the hardest job in the world. It's not near the hardest job in the world. But one thing that I would say about acting, just from, like, the little bit that I've been around it or noticed it, is it's tiring. It is super tiring in, like, a different way. Like, I'm obviously not saying, like, it's not. And for the money that they're getting, like, if you're like them, of course. But there are some people that act and they don't make much money. Like, they don't even make enough to make a living. And they're also doing, like, serving jobs and stuff like that. But it's like, sometimes it's, especially if you're like at the top of the bill for the movie, you're working over 12 hours a day. Like, there's sometimes where you're like 16 hours a day, like, you're there. And for me personally, I was like, oh, if I was doing this every day, I would, like, not be okay. Like, I would not be okay. Like, because I'm one of those people that I need wind down time. I don't care if I get home at like 2 a.m. from a trip or something and I'm just so exhausted and I haven't gotten any sleep for the past 48 hours. Before I go to sleep, before I would have some shut-eye, I'm sitting on the chase part of my couch and I'm watching a little show and I'm having my wind down time. So doing that and then having wind down time, I'm sleeping for like 30 minutes a night. Like, I've got to have a little bit of wind down time. So I can see why, like, you would want to be retired when you have kids, like, being an actor, because, like, you're probably not seeing those children. You're probably not seeing them. And actors that have kids, I'm like, how much are y'all seeing these children? I know some of them, if you're, like, top notch, like, they'll probably let you bring your kids on set. But otherwise, no. Or, like, people with kids, they'll take off, like, months. That is the good part about that. Like, you could literally take off, like, months and you'd still be fine. So there are, hard parts and easy parts to it. Let's see here. So excited for them. Just every single person, like, every single person's engaged on this earth, I believe. I believe every single person on this earth got engaged within the last 6 months. I believe that with my whole heart. So what was I watching? I was at the grocery store the other day, and there's this local grocery store that is stuck in I would say it was probably like early 90s, like almost late 80s, early 90s. And it's like every time I go in there, I'm just so fascinated by it, and I love it so much. Like the lighting fixtures are like brown, like they were made to be brown, and I was like, oh, brown lighting fixtures, like dark brown, this is from a time's past. And there's like even like a little cafeteria in the grocery store, but it's like one of those, like, this is where they have their lunch, like this is where the workers have their lunch. And all of the signs are like the old 90s look. And that's probably one of my favorite like aesthetics, is like old grocery stores. And if a movie or anything is set in a grocery store, or they're like in a grocery store, I will watch it, because I just find that so cool, because there's just so much stuff. Especially if it's like an old movie. I can't even think of one that's like that. I guess kind of like When a Date with Tad Hamilton, like they work at a Piggly Wiggly, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So I hope they never update it. Like if they update that grocery store, I'm going to be actually fully devastated. Like actually devastated. And like Taco Bells, they have these commercials now. With like, you know, they have like the old menu items on there, and then like for the commercials they made this set to look like an old like Taco Bell, and it's gorgeous. Like they're just literally just rubbing it in our faces. Oh, life was better before. Like our Taco Bells were better before. Okay. Like I would have sat in there. And like malls, I feel like those shouldn't have been updated either. Just the old mall feel. Like if it had a fountain, I would like to go there. If your mall has a fountain, like an old fashioned fountain, like covered in like old rusty pennies on the bottom, I would like to go. So that's why I loved that season of Stranger Things, where they were in the mall. Like I feel like 90% of why I like any type of media is just the vibes or the setting. I feel like if they do it well, then that will just make me like it. I don't care what the plot is. Like I really don't. So I think I talked about this last week, that I was going to go to the thrift store to donate a bunch of stuff, and I did that. Like I actually did it. And it was like so much stuff. And I know people say, oh, I feel a weight lifted off my shoulders when I did it. No. There's still too much. I feel like there's just still too much stuff. Too much. But I did get rid of a lot. And so I knew this going into it, but still. Like I gave away like a TV, some clothes, like random, like miscellaneous items. Like a lot of it was just random, like decorations and stuff too. And this is why I don't go to like Play-Doh's closet and stuff, is because like people are seeing what I'm giving away, which is like, like, don't look at my stuff. Like, don't look at me. But I pull up to this place, and it's like, you know, the beginning of January. So there were like actually 6 other cars pulled up giving away just so much stuff. And I was in that same thrift store recently, and it's like packed to the brim. And I was like, do I need to give them just more stuff? But this was the only place that I thought would be a good place that would actually like take the stuff and use it well. So I took all my stuff and I was just putting it in the little bins, and you can just kind of set it outside. And then this guy walks out and I'm like, hey. Just something about like the workers being your age too. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? You know, like, and it just makes it more awkward because I'm like, oh, I'm giving away like this old like ratty t-shirt. Are you gonna, because I guess because I know they're gonna go back in that room that they took my stuff, and they're gonna be like, oh, she gave us this garbage, she gave us this. Okay. But it's really not that deep. But um yeah, I did feel really accomplished when I did that. I was like, wow, I went here on, I think it was like on a Saturday, and I was like, wow, I just went and took my stuff to the thrift store instead of left it in my car for 7 months. So I was pretty happy about that. Um, but with things like that, and a lot of things that people find just super awkward, I think I heard this from someone. I don't really remember, but it did stick. And it was like, you can choose not to be embarrassed. Like, you can choose to not. So if you know you're going into an awkward situation, you can just like choose to be like, this is an awkward situation. And like, I'm not saying that this was an awkward situation, like that's the most mundane thing, but like if you're doing something like you're like meeting your boyfriend's parents for the first time, and you're like, this is going to be so awkward, like this is not going to be okay, and you just kind of shut down and you're so nervous, you can kind of, it's a lot easier said than done, but like you can kind of choose to be like, okay, this is going to be awkward, and you accept that it's like, it's not going to be just like the most chill thing ever, but you can kind of tell yourself like, okay, I'm just going to be the way that I am, and I'm going to just go in there and be myself and be the nice person that I am. And if they don't like me, then that's not really my issue. And you can't like prove yourself to them or something. I don't know. Just stuff like that. I think I've gotten a lot better at that. Just when you know it's going to be an awkward situation, you're like, okay, we're going to get through it. And it's kind of like a fun game sometimes where you get it over with and you're like, oh, I did that and it was fine. And like, I'm going to do it again and it's going to be fine too. So, and you can kind of reward yourself after. I don't know. You can just kind of tell yourself not to be embarrassed, because there are just so many embarrassing things to do. Like I do something embarrassing once every day, at least, probably way more than that. But yeah, just tell yourself it's not embarrassing. Also, I think the biggest part to like help that work for you is to realize that other people, like, they do not care. The biggest part, I know so many people have said this. This is like the millionth time you've probably heard someone say this, but like, no one cares what you're doing. No one really cares. So, I mean, that could be a good or a bad thing. Like, there are people that care about you and like want to know what you're up to and like do care. But most people, like, they're thinking way too much about themselves to even think about you. So, especially if it's someone that you're saying like that you don't even know, like say you're going to, I don't know, you have to go meet someone to talk about something and you haven't met each other before, but you know that you'll never see each other again. Like, they're too busy thinking like, about what they're going to eat tonight. You know, I don't know. It's just like, it's kind of hard to explain, but I think like once that kind of gets through and where you're like, okay, you have to learn like kind of to be even about yourself. Like, especially when I have days where I'm like dressed up, I have makeup on, my hair's done, and there are days which are more common where I'm just like in a hoodie like this and like no makeup and stuff. And I could feel worse about myself in these days and then feel way better about myself in those days where I'm all dressed up. But I think kind of like leveling that out and not being like, oh, I only feel good about myself when I look the way that I want to look, or like when my skin's not breaking out. Then I feel good. Then I can do this. Then I feel good. But just kind of being like, okay, my look's gonna change from year to year, from day to day, whatever. But just like realizing that that's not that important. Like, it's important to like take care of yourself and stuff like that, but like when you have a zit on your face, like don't just like not go somewhere because you don't want people to see that zit on your face. Like, it's not that it's not, because I've been there. I've literally been like, I'm not hanging out with this person because I have a zit on my face. But I was also like 17 and I was like, no. But anyway, so okay, so last thing, I've been watching like lots of Netflix lately. I've been on my Netflix kick, and there are a few Nickelodeon shows on there, and I've been watching like Zoey 101 and Drake and Josh, but I've been like, it's usually just on in the background. It's just like a comforting, you know, show to have on in the background. But there are only like 2 seasons and like 40 episodes total, which adds up to like 2 hours because each episode's like 3 minutes long. So they don't have like half of the show on Netflix. I looked it up and it said something about like a copyright reason. But I'm like, okay, so I have to watch season 2, episode 3 of Zoey 101 like 12 times because I've rewatched it like 4 times. like just the same like 12 episodes of Zoey 101 because they don't have the other episodes. And Drake and Josh is even worse. It's like 4 episodes of the first season. I don't know what's happening there. But I was watching this one episode of Zoey 101, and it was the episode where they have the time capsule, and they were all putting their stuff in there. And this show's from like, you know, the olden days when I was a kid. And they were like, oh, I think the year that it was supposed to be was like 2026. Because I think it was 20 years later. It was like now when the time capsule was supposed to be opened. Which, first of all, let's talk about that. But Chase, he is just in love with Zoey. We know he is pining for this woman from the second he saw her. Which I still ship them. I still ship them. 100%. I was obsessed with Chase. I think I've said that. I was just obsessed with that man. And I was jealous of Zoey because I was like, that needs to be me right now. But she makes something and she's like talking about each of her friends and like what she thinks about them on this like DVD. And they're going to like put it in the time capsule and no one's going to see it until the year 2026 or whatever year it was. And he's like, oh, I have to see what she thinks about me because he, of course, in his mind, he's like, she's, of course, confessing her love to me, of course. So he gets it somehow, but he doesn't watch it. I don't think he ends up watching it. See, I was like halfway watching this, But just they show him in the future, and it's like, oh, when he sees it in 2026, like what it's going to be like. The stuff that people thought in 2006 was going to be, or the stuff that people thought 2026 was going to be like in 2006 is like crazy. Like they had him in this like suit, like future suit, and the video was coming up on like a hologram, and I'm like, everyone wants holograms so bad, but holograms, I don't want a hologram. Like, I feel like that's worse quality. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, it's like transparent, and like you don't want that. Like, I feel like I'd rather just watch a screen than like a hologram that it shows her the hologram, and it's supposed to be like, oh, this is what the future is gonna look like. No. And it's like, life now is really not that different from then. I guess the biggest difference is cell phones. Like, the phones are like little computers now, but that's really the only difference. I mean, they had tech mates. A tech mate? I'd rather have a tech mate than an iPhone. Like, I don't care. So, it's just funny what they thought the future was going to be, which is now. But I kind of love that things have not changed that much, and that like nothing is really like just drastically different. At least anything that I can think of. Like, they would probably think like cyber trucks were cool. Like, that's what you would think of when you think of futuristic cars. But that's about it, really. Like, and I kind of love that. I love how, like, there have been little updates, but nothing like that dramatic. I'm going to, what's the word? We don't want holograms. I don't want a hologram. If people start putting holograms in their homes, I mean, I'm going to protest. That was the word. I'm protesting holograms. So thank you. But anyway, I guess that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I've gotten kind of stir crazy from being just, it's been snow days. You know, those days are like a little bit like of a twilight zone, but in a good way. So I'm going to go continue over on Patreon. So if you want to subscribe to Patreon, I do like little bonus. Okay, we're having issues over here right now, but I do like little bonus extra little part of the podcast over there. So if you want to subscribe to that, it's in the description. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.